The world stands on the brink. Russian tanks roll, China's shadow looms, and cyber attacks from rogue states like Iran, North Korea hammer our defences daily. War isn't just a possibility, it seems more like a question of when. The UK is pouring billions into weapons factories, AI and military stretched to its limits, aiming for a 2.5% GDP on defence, with NATO now pushing for a staggering 3.5%. But that's by 2032. But why? Are we arming for the inevitable clash? Or are leaders stroking a fire that we could extinguish right now? As budgets strain and alliances waver, the cost of this escalation, lives, future, and stability hangs in the balance. But we'll be talking about it all right here tonight on InFocus with me, Curtis Hinton, live from our London studios, where my co-hosts this Tuesday evening is Lee Harris and Kezia Noble. Welcome to the show. It's great to have the Tuesday team back.
That's right. Back together.
And fresh off the boat, Kezia.
Fresh off the boat. 5-star hotel tonight. All mine.
It is great to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
The topic kind of covering today, NATO pushing for 3.5% by 2032. The UK had a target of 3% by 2034. They're pushing more. Why now?
Why now? Well, we do live in difficult times geopolitically. We have the war in Ukraine. I can see that this is going to be well received. I personally think we should spend more on defence. But why now? Possibly as a very convenient distraction for Keir Starmer. Obviously, his polling is absolutely diabolical. This is very convenient for Keir Starmer at the moment. So, yeah, I remain a little bit sceptical about whether a lot of this is just posturing. But it's yet to be seen. I saw a clip. I was desperately trying to find out exactly the details of it. But I saw a clip today on another station. It was John Healey was being grilled about how many submarines we are going to be able to build within this new kind of 18-month window where we can pump out a new submarine every 18 months. He hadn't got a clue. So Labour have yet again they've got a policy. They're going to allocate money to it, but they don't really know what the fruits of it will be. And he openly, it was Nick Ferrari who was in the interview. He did an exceptional job, and he actually got John Healey to admit openly that they just didn't have a clue how many subs they were going to do. And to me, that really is typical. So it doesn't seem very well planned at the moment.
Kezia, do you agree? Is it well planned? Is it not? I mean, you're
3
very
points.
3 points.
Got 3 points. Number one, how much is this going to cost us? Where are they going to get the money from? Because everyone's stretched as it is. That black hole is just going to get big. If there is a black hole, it's just going to get bigger and bigger. The second one is if we are preparing to go to war at some point, we do need to look at, because a lot of this doesn't make sense, why are we giving away the Chagos Island when it's got a British naval base there?
A British US naval base.
A British US naval base. And they are allied with China. That's a big question mark.
And there was a big congratulations from China as well to Mauritius, wasn't there?
Yeah, another kid.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, he lied, saying,
Yeah.
Karen.
Well, third point is these 1,000 men that we have coming in every day, are they going to be on the front line fighting for Britain? Just curious. Just 3 points.
Would you want to give them weapons? I mean, they've probably brought their own, but...
It does kind of make me feel, though, why would anyone sort of risk their life if that's who the people are that they're protecting?
Yeah.
You're not even protecting British people anymore. If they're going to stay at home and say, I'm not going to fight this war. This is not my country. My allegiance is with Libya or wherever they're from. Then it kind of makes you feel like, well, what am I going to put all my son or my daughter's life on the line for these people? There's a lot, I see what you're saying. Like, I think we need to spend more on protecting ourselves from cyber wars. That's the next big thing. We could see what happened with Marks and Spencer's recently. Just that small cyber attack. It was actually quite small. And it cost them millions and millions. Imagine if they could do a cyber attack on the banks, on the the infrastructure, then we're finished. We won't last for more than, a couple of weeks?
And to be fair, they are...
They're way more advanced than us with this.
Yeah, well,
Russians.
I wouldn't say... They're not more advanced than us when it comes to hacking. The UK, as it goes, we are pretty damn good at...
But you know why? Because we get a lot of assistance from Israel.
True.
And do you know who now we don't want to be aligned with so much now? Is Israel. So Israel have actually already said, you want to do this? you don't want to be on our side, we're not going to give you our specialties and our experience on cyber warfare.
You are absolutely right. We
It's just that all of it doesn't make sense. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like we're sort of like on this war footing, but at the same time, Chagos Islands going against Israel, one of our allies, all this kind of stuff kind of like doesn't make sense. Like it goes against...
Is it going to potentially, and we've just seen obviously the Chagos deal go through, is this, and us going in the EU through the back door with different deals that are coming through, is this Starmer's way of traditional communism in terms of trying to align up for one big state, i.e. the EU, and then saying, well, we have to join the EU now because there's going to be a war that's going to happen?
Yeah, could
Is
well
this
be.
a clear path that he says there's no other option now because we've given everything else away? We've got nothing
Well, we've
else.
always said, both of us have said, he just wants to drag us back in stealth, anyway, back into the European Union. He wants to ignore the Brexit vote. He will, yeah, I agree that that's probably what he is going to do, what he wants to do.
And there's no doubt about this, that this is a very good, as I've already said, it's a good PR exercise for Keir Starmer. It gives him the ability to try and look strong on the world stage. And I think he's milking it for as much as he possibly can because he is doing so badly domestically. Yeah. So there is going to be an element of that to it. But, you know, I do think we need to be... did you say there was a couple of tweets that came out?
Yes, yeah.
Today?
So but my first question is Russia a threat to the UK, do you believe?
No, not as much. Well, as we have nuclear weapons also. This is what's keeping us. It's stopping us from anything escalating. Is that that's the whole purpose of having nuclear weapons. I think this is where the left and the right are actually starting to unite, because it was originally the left that were always pro-Russia, but then when this whole war of Ukraine happened, they started taking, it was very bizarre. It was the right that said, we don't really want anything to do with this war. And now actually the left are starting to say, maybe this isn't such a good idea to keep funding this never-ending war.
Yeah.
But there might be a good chance to unite.
But the leaders seem to want to keep funding it. Lee, you alluded to some tweets. So the Russian embassy, will pop them on the screen, hopefully. The Russian embassy put out 2 tweets today. This first one says, it is regrettable that having replaced the Conservatives, Labour continues to invent the same Russian-phobic fabrications in an attempt to mask its own economic ineptitude. We had this before the show. And to justify the hike in military spending that the UK can scarcely afford. And then followed by a couple of hours later by this next tweet they put out, which says, we'll pop it on the screen, but it says...
the emoji.
Yeah, this is
the Russian embassy. If someone told you 20 years ago they're going to use this emoji, it's not happening.
The next one says, Russia poses no threat to the United Kingdom and its people. We harbour no aggressive intentions and no plans to attack Britain. We are not interested in doing so, nor do we need to do we need to.
Well, look, I probably agree with that on balance. I can't see Russia launching an actual full-scale military attack on this country. However, having said that, we cannot sit here and say that Russia are not a threat, they're fine, they've got our best interests at heart. They do not have our best interests at heart. They let off one of the most deadliest chemical weapons known to the human race in Salisbury. They also, we had the case, I'm going to embarrass myself now, I should be old enough to remember this, but we had a case with the polonium, which was an attack. I cannot remember the guy's name, but that was done on British soil. And in fact, it was so bad that for months and weeks after, there was still traces of polonium along the street outside the cafe where he put it in the tea. This is a country, admittedly, both of those times, they were not targeting the British state. They were targeting what they would consider Russian operatives.
It was internal politics.
It was
that
internal,
happened to spread out into our country.
But the fact is they had the balls to let off that level of weapon in public in the UK.
And they managed to do so as well.
And they managed to do so.
It doesn't mean that they're going to launch a nuclear bomb on us.
Of course
that's
it doesn't.
a huge leap of faith, that.
But that could have killed British people, and they did that on British soil. So at no way should we be treating Russia with kid gloves. We should be treating them as a threat. But do I think that they're going to invade? No, I don't.
What about the aspect of we have supplied Ukraine with equipment, with technology, which is being used to now attack Russia, not just to defend Ukraine, but to attack Russia. Does that expose us? Does that put us on the back foot?
He has commented.
But he hasn't done anything yet.
He has commented. You know, they have. You got. Russia is all bark and very little bite. I appreciate they are biting Ukraine at the moment, but they've already said things to the effect that they view the United Kingdom no different to Ukraine. You're now involved in the war because you are directly, they're using British missiles against
But
Russian
it's been going on
territory.
for almost 3 years. We've been funding
It's all
Ukraine
math.
and nothing's happened.
It's all math.
I used to go, before the war, I used to go to Russia quite a lot.
Really?
Yeah, and most of the people there, they just people, they just want peace.
I've got nothing against the Russian
And
people.
I think a lot of what we're seeing is propaganda.
It is. Absolutely. I mean, I've watched a couple of, I'm sure we all have, the couple of clips where you see, I don't know if it's their version of GB News in Russia, where they literally have a map in the background of where the missiles are going to land in the UK. And I keep thinking, right, well, at least I'm in the southwest. So, like, I think I might be able to get away with not getting hit by nukes. So I'm all right. But yeah, if you're in London, you're
I'm
screwed.
all right, Jack.
To be honest, they won't be met. I'm near Hinckley. Right, so if they hit Hinckley, that's me gone.
Everyone knows where you live
You
now.
just said
well
Russia's all bark, no bite. He's now going right Hinkley on the map.
Yeah, he's gonna they know about Hinckley, but so the Chinese,
Look,
they own it.
They're not our friends as much as China's not our friend.
Correct.
And that's it.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
Do you think they could ever be an ally?
Yes, I do think they could be an ally. I mean, if you think about back to the 90s, I know a lot of this was for show, but we did have Putin here with Tony Blair on the steps of Number 10. The relationship was a lot better back then. I think that can happen again.
me
I
too.
definitely think that can happen again. But I think the West needs to. I hope I'm not going to sound like on the other side about this, but the West needs to understand Russia a little bit better and what their intentions are. And the real reason why.
And the Russian mentality.
And the Russian
As
mentality.
I say, I go there a lot. They have a different way of doing everything.
Yeah, the Russians have been conquered many times throughout their history, and
They're tough
they
people.
know it.
They are tough people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like when you say to a Russian, like, how are you? Like, if you say to someone who's in England, how are you? They'll say, yeah, I'm fine. But in Russia, they'll treat it like it's a real question. They'll be like, I feel terrible. So, there's no niceties. There's no niceties.
No.
I used to stay in the 5-star hotels there. They don't smile at you. It doesn't matter how much money you spend, but it looks hostile.
But it's just their way of life.
It's just their way.
Yeah.
So we have to understand the Russian mentality, I think, also.
And
And they
their
have to
country-
understand our
The
mentality.
country is in a lot of stick. You listen to the propaganda, but their country is really not great at the moment. They're struggling.
Obviously, we spoke about NATO wanting 3.5%. The UK had a target of 3% by 2034. The US president has said NATO members should aim for 5%. And calling NATO members delinquents for not meeting them targets. He previously suggested 4% during his first term, and it's increased spending obviously now because of benefits that he can see. And they see this as a 3.5% core and an additional 1.5% available there.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No,
Just
me neither.
punt as much as high as you can. We know that that's Trump's mentality. People are going to start to understand Trump too, as well as trying to understand Putin. But this is just an opening negotiation.
Yeah, it gives them
effectively.
space to bargain. That's
Just
all.
gives them space
Yeah.
to bargain. But I don't think there's anything wrong with his aspiration of hitting that.
Yeah.
But we've got to balance this out with from a UK domestic position. And yes, this is great. I am very pro spending more on defence. However, if you look at the budgeting that we've got in this country and the way that the Labour government are spending, I don't trust them to basically leave the British people in the brown and smelly from this additional
Yeah,
spending.
but we need to then cut back on what we are paying tax currently for.
Agreed.
Because I'm like you, I would rather my money go towards defence than paying for hotels for migrants.
Or net zero, for example. So, we could save 45 billion just on that alone. So I just hope that if we are going to be talking
But
about
they won't
money,
take away one. They'll just increase the taxes.
In fact,
to
they won't
fund this. That's
they
the
won't take
problem.
away either of them. That's what's been bugging me about this whole conversation, not just about defence, but about other things. They'll say, well, what are you going to cut then? What is it you're going to cut? And I'm shouting at the telly, net zero and sort the
They're
migrants
not cutting
out.
anything. They're going to be raising.
It's not even on
they're
their
not
radar.
cutting. They're raising.
Yeah, and it's not on their radar because they're ideologically opposed to that suggestion.
So just quickly, without driving fear into the audience, in the next 10 years, one-word answers. Kezia, I'll start with you. Do you believe we could be in some sort of conflict of significance?
With Russia?
With any country,
I
Russia,
think
China?
with possibly Iran.
Lee?
Not with Russia, no. I think calmer heads will prevail, but 10 years is a long time.
Iran's, I think, the enemy more.
Yeah, but they're sucking up to Trump now.
Well,
Was that on Twitter recently? Did they put one of those emojis like the Iranian embassy?
No, they backed off a little bit, I think.
Well, what do you think? You can get in touch with the show at InFocus Quews on X, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a little comment in that box. We'll be coming back from a short break in a moment. But our poll of the show, we're going to be talking about later on about the High Street and Labour's taxes. We're asking you, have you seen any difference in the last 12 months, or the past 11 months since Labour took over, in your High Street following their tax hikes? You can head to our X page where you can find the poll on there. Let us know your thoughts. We'll read out the results in the final segment of the show. We'll see you in a few.
Yeah. They're not interested, to be honest, they're not really particularly interested in any victims of child sex abuse. I mean, Harriet Harman, who I believe has just been appointed the Minister for Women and Equalities, actually was involved with a thing called the Paedophile Network.
Information exchange.
Information exchange in the 1970s, which campaigned for paedophiles to be able to communicate with each other. And
what they wanted to do was to bring the age of consent down to 10.
yeah, and Harriet Harman is photographed with them.
We better quickly say that Harriet Harman and Patricia Hewitt, who both went on to be Labour ministers, have apologised.
Yeah, but, you know, what chance do girls stand when you've got women like that in any position of power?
And
shame on them.
To Yvette Cooper and to Keir Starmer, we had a victim of the grooming gangs on today. So please stop standing up there and saying they do not want a national inquiry, because them and the rest of the nation do. The channel, and they're not wanted. And actually today we've just got word through that we broke a new record.
Yes!
700 in one day.
Get in there.
Well, only a few days ago we broke that record, going to 600 in one day. But we've smashed that. We're over 700 now, so we're on to that 1,000. We're heading towards it.
It's just ridiculous.
So they're not
isn't
really
it?
small boats anymore, are they?
They're smashing the
not.
gangs,
It's got
though.
them really big,
Don't
massive
worry.
I actually
boats.
think the latest boat was sponsored by P&O. I think it was just...
Well, it's definitely sponsored by the by Border Force, but it's a shocking indictment. I mean,
There's one element though we do want to talk
Yeah.
about, something a little bit not off topic, because it's very much on topic. But with all these people coming over, we specifically Kezia wanted to talk about the demographic change within the UK that this is actually going to bring. And you've been doing a little bit of research,
I've
Kezia.
been doing a lot of research. So you said people are coming over. It is majority men.
Yeah.
We're talking now 90%
fighting
are men.
age men.
Fighting age men. Yeah.
Yep.
Grandfathers and uncles come over later once they've got their visa sorted out. So this is a change in the gender demographics, which you talk a lot about. A lot of people do talk about the cultural demographic change,
Yeah.
but they're entwined with each other. So if you go to Middle Eastern countries, for instance, what will you see? And I've gone to Morocco. I've been to a lot of these countries. You see more men on the streets. You say, where are women? Where are the little girls? Where are they? There's a lot less in those countries. We'll talk about that another time for why that is. But a lot of them, it's just a different culture. The women are at home. The sisters, the daughters are at home. Fine, it works for them. Good luck to them. That's their culture, and I respect that. But we don't have that in this country. We've always been, it's been roughly either, it's been a very balanced ratio, 50-50 on the whole. But obviously in times of war, there have been more women than men. Now, when there are more women than men, you can actually operate quite well under that.
You know, the child market, I've told you this before, Curtis, you know, my idea, ignored completely by
Oh yes, KGB News. The
got live.
account.
Hello and welcome back to InFocus with me, Curtis Hinton, on this Tuesday evening where my co-hosts are Lee Harris and Kezia Noble. Now I'm going to introduce a guest on the line, the leader of the Heritage Party, David Curtin. Can you hear me all okay?
Yeah, hi Curtis.
Hi, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good to join you, yeah.
So first and foremost, it's great to have you on. I want to speak to you and get your opinion on what the current situation of the UK is at the moment with the boats coming over and your thoughts on that and how you think this should be resolved best.
I think it's very dangerous at the moment what's happening, and it's a deliberate plan. And you can tell because it would be so easy to stop the small boats coming across the channel. All you need is the Royal Navy to get some grappling hooks and push them back to France. But they're doing the opposite. They've actually been tasked by the government, as we can see, with meeting them in the middle of the channel, escorting them over to Dover or somewhere else in the country. And then there is a whole distribution network, if you like, to pick these people up at Dover and take them to hotels around the country. And then after a few weeks or a few months, they're handed over to Serco or someone else to put them in a home or a house and be distributed around the country to every local authority area. And I know from talking to Heritage Party members in different parts of the country that they see migrants being bussed in or coming on early morning trains all over the place, even in small towns that they've never had any migration or much migration before. So what we've seen happening in the 70s and 80s in Bradford and Leicester and Telford and Rotherham and places like that is now spreading out to small places like Barnstaple and Littlehampton and Skegness and Newquay and so on. So this is a deliberate plan. It is a huge drain on public resources, which is going to cause immense financial problems. I mean, looking at the amount that the government spends on benefits to migrants, we just heard this week that £1 billion a month is given on welfare to migrants, and that's not including the amount that's spent on migrant hotels and medical care and so on. But the worst thing for ordinary people is the increase in crime, because most of the people coming across in small boats, of course, are military-aged men, and they have a higher crime rate. And we know the statistics are out. So migrants from some countries have a 30 times greater proportionately propensity to commit sexual crimes. And this is a very, very big danger to women in this country.
David, I know my co-host Kezia wants to ask you a question, but just before she does, I just want to come back to you on one point. We heard Labour almost confirm that under the Conservatives, this was by design. The immigration to this country was by design. What we're seeing now is something slightly different. It's substantially more illegal. It's not coming on the back of a lorry. It's channel boats we can actually stop. So why are Labour allowing it to continue? Because that's what they are doing. They're not going out, as you say, the Navy in the waters. Why are they allowing it to happen?
I don't see any difference between the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. I call them the fake Conservative Party. And migration has just gone higher and higher and higher through Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Sunak, and now Starmer. It's even higher in terms of illegal migration. So, and legal migration is through the roof as well. Yeah. Yes, it's got down a little bit last year, but that's after record highs in 2023. So I think that this is tied in with globalization, with people in the globalist powers that be that don't want European nations to have an identity in their nation. They like countries to just be states rather than nations. So people who live here, they could be one ethnic group one decade, a different ethnic group another decade, a completely different ethnic group later on in the future. But I'm reminded, just as I'm talking, of Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who wrote the Gulag Archipelago. And one of the most poignant lines in that book was, in order to destroy a people, you must first sever their roots. And I think this is part of a severing of the roots of the people that live here with the nation. It's a cutting off of the people who live today from the past or the future, so that people could be more easily atomized and controlled by the powers that be.
Kezia, please.
Oh, hi, David. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that this is. I don't think this is incompetence anymore. I think maybe 20, 30 years ago, we thought it was incompetence, letting in these people for the back of lorries. They weren't doing their checks properly. It was like, 20, 30 people a year coming in. Now it just feels much more systematic. It feels much more organized. It feels much more planned. And nothing is getting done about it. It is, as David said, so easy to fix. And also, I still maintain that legal immigration is actually more serious than the small boats because of the sheer numbers. And by the way, those numbers are coming in from the third world. Don't think they're all coming in from France and Italy and Sweden. They're not. They're coming mainly from India, from Nigeria, third world countries. My question to David. So David, I am moving to your area soon. I won't say where you live, but we're going to be neighbours soon. And I go there quite a lot because I have family there. And I've noticed in the last year, changes happening. I've noticed that the demographics have changed. But because I only go there, let's say once a month, I just wanted to see from your point of view what you think of that particular area. Have you seen the change also?
It is changing, and this is something that's not limited to the area you're talking about. In my area, there were massive changes 20 years ago, but the people coming in were from Eastern Europe, moreover. So, people used to complain 20 years ago, oh, there's all these Lithuanians here and so on, and then Romanians and Bulgarians. But now you've got Somalis and so on coming over, and Afghans, and they have a completely different feel about them. I think people have got used to Eastern Europeans, quite a lot. They work hard, they send money home, but they work hard. But now there is a sort of threatening edge to some of the people who are moving in at the moment. And this is not just happening in that area. It's happening in small towns all over the country. And people are very, very concerned about the changes that are going on right at the moment that they've not seen before.
Yeah. Lee, my other co-host, wants to ask a question as well, David.
Hi, David. I happened to be having a conversation recently with someone who lives not too far from where I do in the West Country, and my ears pricked up when we were talking about small villages, and there was a very small place near Weston-super-Mare, and what they are doing, apparently, I'm going to try and do a bit of investigative work on this because it's pretty new news, and what they're doing is they are ferrying migrants in via the local coach company overnight, and they're doing it under the guise of, so basically there are discussions now going on at a local level to try and stop this, because obviously their people are kicking up fuss. But my question was, I was very interested to hear Reform talking about effectively lawfare against the state, against the government, to try and stop finding loopholes to stop these hotels being used on basis, for example, changing the license conditions for the license, for example. Do you think that that's got any legs? Do you think that there is a way that we can, on a local level, push back against the government legitimately, or do you think they're going to pile in and get their way anyway?
I'm all for trying to find ways. I don't know how successful these ideas will be, because this has been going on for a number of years now, and they still seem to be able to get away with doing this with impunity. But any kind of pushback is welcome. I think if you've got an MP who is in the government, they can obviously stop this happening. I think there was a case I remember which was quite widely publicised with Priti Patel, who was the MP for Malden in Essex, and there was a lot of complaints about a hotel in her constituency being turned into a migrant hotel, and she said, no, we don't want that, but because at the time she was the Home Secretary, she got it stopped. But of course, not everybody is as fortunate to have an MP who can actually play the game like that. But some of these things are being arranged by the Home Office. So, you need to deal with the Home Office, challenge them rather than the local council. Other things are being organised by the local councils because they get paid a certain amount of money from the central government in order to receive migrants. So if the migrants are coming in, that particular method of organisation, then you have a better chance of challenging your local council about that and pushing back on them, because they're easier to challenge than the Home Office. So I welcome any kind of lawfare against the people that are facilitating that. If we can find a way that works, let's do it.
Kezia?
David, do you agree with me that we need to put more of a spotlight on the company Serco?
Yes, absolutely. And we know that they've got the contract for housing asylum seekers or people coming in on the small boats as well. And it all seems to be rather opaque. And I know, someone we both know is Lewis Brackpool, and he's been sending out FOI requests to the Home Office, to local councils and all bodies that are involved in this, but he seems to be not getting a proper answer back. From what I've read of the responses to his FOI requests, there seems to be a complete denial of any kind of contracts, although we know that they do exist. So we need, to put this company right under the microscope, absolutely. And if there's anything that is not in order, then we need to make sure that they're stopped from doing what they do.
David, we've got about 60 seconds, so I just wanted to ask you about the Heritage Party. You are the leader of the Heritage Party. Could you tell us a bit more about, for those who don't know, what the Heritage Party stands for, what you're trying to do?
We are a socially conservative party. I think we're the only UK-wide socially conservative party that is. And so, a quick way of explaining what we are is we're probably like what the Conservatives used to be 40 years ago. Well, what everyone thought was common sense 40 years ago. So we're for financial responsibility, low immigration, controlled borders, getting the best of Brexit and our national sovereignty, traditional family values. We're pro-life. We want true equality before the law, not this horrible two-tier justice that we've got. And we are for excellence in education. And certainly we're against all of this gender nonsense and climate fear that is being put on children by activists. And so that's us in a nutshell. Our strapline is Freedom, Family, Nation. And you can read our manifesto in full on our website at heritageparty.org.
Awesome. David, thank you so much for giving us the time this evening. I mean, ultimately, I think a lot of the stuff that we all can kind of agree with, and he just reaffirmed what a lot of our viewers think as well, in terms of what is actually happening with the immigration, that the government are doing nothing about it, that it's being done on purpose. And I mean, you asked the question about councils. I mean, I'd throw the argument, if we had the time, of councils almost being forced into this because, as he said, they get the cash, and councils are broke in this country. So is the government, although councils are accepting they're going to get the backlash, the government are the ones responsible for giving out those
follow the money trail. Always follow the money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, I wouldn't, I put it to him, it's Serco. This is public funded, this is our money. Serco. This is not like a private company who's doing it out of the goodness of their heart, housing these people. This is
our money. Government's biggest contractor.
Yeah. And it needs to be on the front page of every single newspaper. It needs to be, the first thing that they talk about on the 10 o'clock news. It's that important. I can't believe how so many people are just walking around with their head in the sand.
I think people are waking up to it. I think more people today than yesterday, and I think more people tomorrow than today.
You ask the average person, have you heard of Serco in the street? They look at you, the blank face, don't know what you're talking about still.
Well, let us know what you think. Do you know who Serco are? Do you think that they're responsible for this? Who is to blame for the immigration crisis we have here in the UK? You get in touch with the show on social media at InFocus Quews, or you get in touch with a little comment on the YouTube box. But today's poll as well, just before I send you guys, or we go to a break, we are asking you, do you believe that Labour's taxes on businesses has affected your high street? Obviously, Labour have hit businesses hard, national insurance for the employers, bringing up the minimum wage, which obviously we all support as well. But when there's no support for businesses, it means it comes out of their pockets. Let us know. The poll's on X at InFocus Quews. We'll see you in a few moments. Richard Harpin, who's donated 3.5 million to the Conservatives, their 10th largest donor since 2010 anyway. and he's donated nearly £1 million since 2023. So key financer for the general election last year. He was the founder of HomeServe.
It is a big blow, this, to Kerry. And
Yeah, huge.
I mean, we saw news articles, about 2 months ago, saying that they're already having to look at closing offices. There was rumours that they would even have to shut GCHQ.
Good.
They couldn't afford to keep it
I don't want a
anymore.
Tory party anymore. I want it gone. I want it gone now because it's the same as Labour. I want it gone because you're just going to have people who are going to keep voting the Tories because they're not even aware of reform. And you know, a lot of people, they're not aware, they are aware, but they just don't think they've got a chance. They just keep voting the Tories because they said, well, at least it's not Labour, even though it is Labour, essentially. It's the same, it's the union party.
I completely agree.
So I'd be very happy if that just, disappears into the horizon, the Tory party, and it's gone. Because everyone's like nostalgic, like, oh, it was a great party under Thatcher, Done. That's finished now.
The era of the Conservative Party is over.
I only like Ian Duncan Smith. It's the only one I like.
The problems
rest
that
of them can
Conservatives have got, I quite like Ian Duncan Smith,
I
but the
don't.
problems that Conservatives have got are terminal. And I think a lot of people have come to realise this now. It doesn't matter. I think Jenrick is great. And again, if you follow him on X,
Yeah, he is good.
He is very good.
Yeah.
But everybody knows.
2 out of all of them. And the others are jumping ship to reform.
It doesn't matter how good individuals are, and we some of us have learnt this the hard way. They're all the wets in the party, the Lib Dems. They're never going to let them do anything.
Just vote Lib Dem. This is what I mean. Why can't they just go to Lib Dem?
They're a broad
Do
church
you know
with
what?
no
To be
religion.
fair, I really would rather them prop up Kemi than Ed Davey in a government.
Oh God, yeah.
Start with you, Joseph. 2029 Britain, if Labour is still in power, what does it look like?
Well, first of all, I think we're going to have a few more mass incidents like Southport before then, and these will be organised incidents that you're starting to see, because what else is coming over with these people on the boats? Well, you mentioned Albanians not that long ago. Actually, if you break down into the crime statistic, Albanian gangs seem to be making up number one on most lists. So they're going to see this as an opportunity. When this week report comes out that says it was all about knife crime and it was all about young adolescent boys online, predominantly white and right-wing, who are the problem, well, they'll just get even bolder, won't they? Because they're not seeing any kind of clapback on their ability to operate within inner cities. So we're going to see young women not being able to go out at night at all. I mean, they barely can now unless they're in 2s and 3s. By then it will be, I think, pretty dystopian in inner cities, because we're going to see a spike in crime. We're also going to see a lack of policing. Because they don't know how to police these communities. You touched on it earlier, enclaves. Like, we're living in an enclavic kind of way of policing already. That's going to get worse and worse. The mood of the country is going to be absolutely insane by that point, because we'll have had another economic crash. I'm not painting a very good picture here, am I? But I think the hope is that the populace are going to get to the point where they've had enough, and they are going to vote for an alternative.
And as Nigel Farage said at his recent rally,
Hello and welcome back to InFocus with me, Curtis Hinton, on this Tuesday evening, where my regular co-hosts for Tuesday, they're back together. It's Kezia Noble and Lee Harris. Robert Jenrick, it seems like on a weekly basis we're talking about him. Anyone think he was the leader of the
Where's
Conservative
Kemi?
Party?
Where is she? No, so that's the first thing I thought. Is that he's pumping out these very good videos at the moment.
And another one today, attacking the Attorney General, Lord Hermer, who we spoke about last week.
Yes.
After the Chagos Islands issue. Mm-hmm. He is saying, he's talking about Hermer and his decisions on selecting the clients he's representing.
I really like this video because I've been talking about this cap break rule for a while. It's come up a few times, especially when we were discussing Keir Starmer and his very odd decisions of who he's represented over the years, some of them being prescribed terrorist organisations. And the cab rank rule is a bit of an argument killer because it does give the impression that, yes, that it's technically correct, that if it works on the basis that if that's the next job on the list, you have to take it.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. But what I really liked about this video is the nuance that Robert Jenrick brought to this conversation. And the nuance was that he was a top human rights lawyer. When you get to that level, you've got cases coming in left, right and centre, and you just got, basically, you pick and choose.
Yeah.
And he also said about the fact that Lord Hermer did a lot of pro bono work, so he worked for free. And that also disqualifies the cab rank rule. So what he's saying is that without a doubt, Lord Hermer would have chosen, and in some respects, so did Keir Starmer,
Yep.
choose to represent these people. I mean, what runs through your mind? I don't have a problem with the concepts, and I don't think anyone should, that everyone deserves a fair trial,
Yep.
and you should be able to get representation for that. Otherwise, no one would represent these people, obviously, right? So it has to happen, and I fully support the concept. But there's got to be something wrong with you mentally, or you've got to be an evil person
constantly choose.
to be constantly choosing. I mean, he listed them off, didn't he? We had 2 or 3 ISIS people.
Well, I'll tell you what, Lee, we'll watch the video that Robert Jenrick put out today,
Put
and
it
we
on.
are going to give you the full 2-minute video
Play the clip.
that he put out. So let's watch that clip.
Why is it that Keir Starmer's Attorney General, Lord Hermer, represented all these clients? He says cab rank rule, and it's a vital legal principle. Gary, what's the cab rank rule?
It means the first cab of any rank must take the first customer.
Easy. And it's the same for many lawyers. Criminal barristers can represent people accused of horrific crimes because everyone knows they had to take the case. What's true for our criminal barristers just wasn't true for Lord Hermer. He was a top human rights lawyer. He will have been inundated with cases, able to choose the pick of the bunch. And what's more, he often worked on a pro bono or no win, no fee basis. And the cab rank rule just doesn't apply to these cases. In other words, when Hermer's cab arrived, he chose his passengers. Jerry Adams, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 terrorists linked to Al-Qaeda, including 2 of Osama bin Laden's lieutenants, 1 linked to 9/11 and 1 to 21/7. The mother of an ISIS beetle, Shamima Begum, Caribbean nations demanding reparations, and an Eritrean man who was here illegally, who claimed to be 16, who was actually 26. If someone wants to spend their life defending Britain's enemies, that's on them and their conscience. But that someone shouldn't be chosen to be our Attorney General. We've never had an Attorney General so connected to so many people suing the British government. Now, before the general election, Hermer represented 5 Sri Lankans seeking asylum in the United Kingdom. They lost the case. After the election, they were granted asylum in a special deal. Now, even if all the correct procedures were put in place on conflicts of interest, even the perception of this kind of stuff damages public trust. Last week, people called for Hermer to resign after he likened those criticising the ECHR to the Nazis. But the truth is, Starmer should never have appointed him in the first place. And why did he? Because they share exactly the same views. Britain deserves better than the pair of them.
But I mean,
Did you see that gorgeous lineup of mugshots? It was like something like the Chamber of Horrors.
It's horrific. I must say, though, the quality of the videos that he's putting out, these
whoever is
clips
doing
are
them.
You're not
absolutely
fanboying
brilliant.
him, are you?
I'm not fanboying.
You are. You
because
are.
it doesn't
He's
matter.
done too little, too late. Don't trust a Tory. Don't trust anyone from Labour.
I don't.
Same
I
stuff.
don't.
Too little, too late.
Those
He's all
who-
mouth now. He wasn't mouth before, was he? Now
Those
he's
who
doing his
follow
lovely
me,
videos.
Those who follow me know my views on Robert Jenrick. I think he's fantastic, but he's just wasted the Conservatives. And even if they made him leader, there'd be absolutely no way he'd be able to do any of the things he's talking about. He'll end up turning into Boris. And it's just a sad
Oh,
fact.
God.
I mean, ultimately, Robert Jenrick, if he was leader of the Conservative Party, leader of the opposition, would he still be able to do this now? If we saw Kemi up there doing this, would we be praising her? Would she have the time to do so? Is that why we're not seeing her?
It would tear the party apart. There are too many wets. The reason he can get away with this now is because he's going solo, right?
Yeah.
He's totally doing this by himself. And I'm sure Kemi doesn't quite, because this is totally eating into her spotlight, without a doubt. When people think
But
Conservatives...
she should be doing this, though. But she should be saying what he's saying.
True, she's not capable
But
of
he
it.
also kept his mouth shut when he was in the Conservative Party.
There's no doubt he will lead the Conservatives into the next
Hopefully,
election.
but
But it wouldn't
that
make
would
me
just
vote
split
for them.
Reform's
They could
vote
make
then.
the Messiah himself the leader of the Conservative parties. I still wouldn't vote for them.
What about the Reformed Conservatives?
They need to have joined the Reform Party.
Oh no, please don't.
But there's
We've already diluted it enough.
There's no way that anyone can come into the Conservative Party and ditch all of the wets and somehow convert them into Reform. It's not possible. It's a terminal problem for the Conservatives. They're never going to change.
But I don't
They're
think
done.
Reform should take in any of their sort of toxic waste either.
Well, no, of course they shouldn't. But they should take the good MPs. They should take Suella Braverman. They should take Robert Jenrick.
But they're not.
There's a few
they're
others.
taking in.
There's some good people
drips.
in. There's some
Well,
good people in. The
I want to bring back
They got rid of Rupert Lowe and they've replaced them with someone who is not a Rupert Lowe. Let's be honest.
True, but
Yeah,
Rupert
true.
Lowe, yeah.
Anyway,
Robert
Back to the
Jenrick, you mentioned about him speaking up. It's too little, too late for him. If there was genuinely no way for him to, I mean, he could have done these videos. He may not have got the same platform as he's getting now because obviously he was twice, I think I'm right in saying, a contender for the Conservative leadership. So now might be the perfect time for him. That's what he'd probably argue. For him to do this, he lost that party membership vote. I know it is a party membership vote, remember? And now he's going, well, look, I lost it, but I'm going to show
why
them
did
exactly
he lose
the
it?
people.
He wasn't making the right choices. His
But-
tactics were bad.
Making the right choices for who? 'Cause
Well, he
see,
was
we
trying
know
to
the
appease. He was
Conservatives-
trying to appease, as you say, the wets. He was trying to appease them. Now he's realised that they'd rather have Badenoch in charge rather than him. Now he's going to the sort of more of the right side of it.
I think they're slightly institutionalised in an understandable type way, right? Imagine being in the Conservative Party. They're a 200-year-old party. You've made it to be a notable Conservative, and your fingertips are literally close to the leadership of a 200-year-old party that has basically shared power with the Labour Party for 100 years. They probably won't want to admit to themselves the sheer reality of what's happening in the polls right now.
Yeah.
So I think it's a kind of mental jump that they have to make. Now, as time goes on, we are going to see a continuation of Reform staying high in the polls, and we are going to see a continuation of the Labour Party, and the Conservatives, both of them actually, to be fair, dropping in the polls. Why is that going to happen?
Not if he gets in. If he gets into power, Jenrick, no, it will split Reform.
No,
vote,
it won't.
actually.
And I'll tell you
I
why
think
it
so.
won't. I'll tell you why it won't.
And a lot of suckers
Because
out there that are going to.
true, don't get me. There will be some, but
I
it
think
won't
I'm
be
just too
significant.
hard line.
The
I just
reason,
really now starting to
the
realise I'm
reason
too
it
hard
won't.
line.
The reason it won't is because it's not going to get any better. We're not going to get any lower taxes. Taxes are going to keep going up. Bills are going to keep going up, and especially energy bills. The squeeze on the consumer is going to keep going up. Inflation is going to keep going up. So you're going to tell me at the end of this 5-year period, are we going to feel better off? No, of course we're not. Who are they going to link that to? They're going to link that to the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. And are we going to forgive the Conservatives, by the way, everything that we hate about this country? Uncontrolled immigration, illegal immigration, high inflation. All of that happens on the Conservatives'
was
watch.
part of that government. He was part
Totally.
of it.
That's why I won't vote Conservative. Myself personally.
Why doesn't he join Reform? What's stopping him? Oh, maybe
Because
it's
of
his
that
ego.
mindset. It's because of that mindset
Because
of
he'd
being.
rather have the power. He believes in the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
So it's an ego thing. He just
but
wants power.
If
Eh,
they see
you can
it,
fanboy
Well,
him
there was
more.
rumours about him joining, and then he saw the state of the Home Office and thought he could do more work
Yep.
as Home Secretary, which he can. As Shadow Home Secretary,
Yeah.
which he can. But maybe come the next election, if he knows that he could be unseated by a Reform candidate,
He will be.
He might switch over.
Yeah.
If he knows that he could get a high position in government, because bearing in mind that if they are going to get the 365 I saw earlier this week MPs that they're predicted to get in the most recent polls, they're going to have only five people with
He's
experience.
just a too little, too late person for me.
He's gonna
I'm
smell
sorry.
the
I'm more
coffee.
intolerant than you. I'm more intolerant.
He's going to smell the coffee at some point. And I actually do think Suella Braverman will as well. They are going to get to a stage where they're going to see the writing on the wall. And the writing is already on the wall, in my view. But it's going to take them a little bit longer to see it because of that attachment they've got to the Conservative Party and already being in government, and that's still with them a little bit. But as time goes on, you're absolutely right. The more that the polls stay where they are, the more that it seems likely that Reform are going to make the next government. They will walk.
But let's just hope that the Reform government that we all want is not a watered-down version full of Tories refugees welcome
But we do need experience in that. And I'm not saying refugee welcome
But the one that
experience,
they've got in now
but-
took Rupert Lowe's place has a refugee welcome back. I wouldn't have done it. Even if I was in Tory, I would have said I refuse to do that. Okay, so we can all sit here and make excuses.
Yeah.
I voted the same party as you. Okay, I'm a Reform voter. I don't want this watered down, diluted version.
You want Reform?
Yeah, but what I
want
is I want Reform to be in government. And to do that, they have to edge
they
a
have to
little
be
bit
hardline
over.
because people,
Well, they won't win
even
an
people,
election.
even people who vote Liberal Democrat are saying they've had enough of these votes.
I'm gonna have to cut you there. That's okay. We'll be back in a few moments. Let us know your thoughts online at InFocus Quews. See you in a moment.
Might be having problems or emotional problems or mental problems, and they're much further along than they're saying, and then they're taking the tablets at home and then giving birth to dead babies that would be viable. So after 24 weeks, you've got women. There's one particular woman who actually was taken to court because she took the tablets at 8 months pregnant.
And that was during COVID, wasn't she? She was worried about
and she
finances.
had to go to hospital. So the baby could have been born alive. We think it was born dead. We're not sure.
It showed 14 pages of potential.
Hello and welcome back to InFocus with me, Curtis Hinton on Quews News. We are now at the last segment of the show and we are asking, as we alluded to earlier, has Labour's tax hikes hit your high street? I think a lot of us are seeing big changes. I mean, we've seen changes probably for the last maybe 10 years. The high street has changed massively with online shopping coming in. But with things like business rates going up, with things like national insurance for employers going up, minimum wage going up, Vauxhall leaving Luton, for example, big companies closing down. Tesco announced a several number of their express stores closing this week. WH Smith's is coming off the high street, supposedly, with the new deal they've been brought out. Clinton Cards, big institutional companies which are part of British culture.
You could keep going.
I could just keep going.
Clinton Cards,
The
what
reason
are we
this-
going to do?
The reason this is so frustrating is all of this is predictable, right? So we all sat here and shouting at our TV screens, saying to Rachel Reeves, if your main policy is growth, why are you bringing in a jobs tax? Why are you literally stifling growth? Because they are absolutely
I run a
idiots.
business. I know how business works. These would. I'm going to give you some personal anecdotes. I want to give you a few. So my son has just come back from Brazil, which is actually still considered a developing third world country. And he went there and he showed me loads of videos because he's seeing his dad there. And the high streets are busy. There's no boarded up shops. He said, Mummy, there's no crime there. You can walk around with your phone, no problem. He said, I looked at their shopping malls. They're incredible. They've got so many different types of shops. There's nobody going around delivering food every 5 seconds, interweaving through people. And I'm like, what is going on here? This is a third world country, which looks more first world than our country. Yeah. I recently came back from Malaga. They have what do you call it, marinas and things, which are loads of shops, clothes shops, restaurants, cafes. They've got a really good nightlife there, full of young people. It's really vibrant. And I come back, the moment I landed in London this morning, I just noticed rubbish everywhere, all over the high streets. I saw all these people on bikes interweaving through people. I saw boarded up shops. The only thing that seems to be running anymore are vape shops, Turkish barbers, and fried food
Weird
outlets.
Turkish barbers.
Fried food outlets. That's all I'm seeing. Yeah. So I'm just Malaga. Okay, so Spain is considered not to be as a successful economical country as Great Britain, and I'm telling you,
Spain's been doing quite well.
Much. No, guess what?
They're the
Malaga,
fastest growing.
I'd say 2% of the people there were migrants.
Yeah, Spain's doing quite. I think they're the fastest growing country in Europe at the moment.
But explain Brazil to me. What are we doing?
Yeah, I can't.
I think ultimately as well, they stand there on Small Business Weekend and go, the small business is the backbone of the economy. Oh. But then why are you ruining them?
Exactly, and this, like I said, this was all very predictable. The rise in national insurance, the business rates,
The corporation tax rise under Conservative Party was awful.
Absolutely. And it gets worse. So we're at a situation now where all of the things that Labour said that they were going to increase the tax take. So they've said about, I know I'm repeating again, national insurance was supposed to raise X amount of money. The inheritance tax on farmers was supposed to raise £500 million, I think, 500 million. Now, none of these things are actually bearing any fruit. And the most recent one is that the capital gains tax take is down as well, because we are having millionaires fleeing the country.
Personally, I know so many who are leaving, personally, and it's because of the crime and the tax, both.
So every single policy that they have brought in so far has either failed to raise any money, or is failing, right?
Yeah.
So everything, and let's not forget that they, Labour basically have gambled their entire government on growth. Everything is based on growth. If they don't get growth, basically it's all going to fall apart. And that's clearly not happening. So we're not going to get the growth. We're having lower tax take at the Treasury. Everything that they are doing was both predictable and is destroying the economy.
What is going on?
Labour.
What's the rationale behind it? Where's the plan?
They have absolutely no...
So it's incompetence, that's what you're saying?
It is pure incompetence. They don't understand the Laffer curve.
I can't believe it's incompetence anymore.
They don't understand
I can't. There's a point where you suddenly go, hold on, this feels...
They claim they're going to be bringing and introducing permanent lower business rates for multipliers of RHL properties, funded by a higher rates on properties with a rateable value above $500,000.
Yeah, it's all good.
But then the average person who owns a weird Turkish barbershop, if they're not a weird Turkish barbershop and they're just a traditional Turkish barbershop.
They're not Turkish barbershops, they're just weird.
Those Turkish barbershops look more busy than some of those vape shops, though, and those candy stores.
Yeah, no, that's true. Especially on Oxford Street, one of the most highest priced retail outlets you can get. You got a candy shop working on. To be fair, they are selling a bag of Wotsits for about £15.
Yeah, one bag of Wotsits a day. It's not going to pay the bills.
The national insurance for employers increased from 13.8% to 15%, which is going to raise about £25 billion a year. Now, let's just take that figure. That's a huge sum.
Yeah.
But that's a huge sum taken away from businesses
who are
need
going
to
bust
grow.
at record levels
What's this
because
going to do to
of
young
this.
people? There's a poverty and ambition right now for young people. They can't think about setting up a business. I told you I was in a very fortunate place where I was. You know, we're 19% corporation tax. I set up a business when I was like 29. It was great. But now, you know, young people, they can't even afford to get on the housing ladder. They can't afford a home. They can't afford to set up a business. No wonder they're just going to be sitting there looking at TikTok, vaping all day. There's nothing. Even the high street, they can't even go down the high street to see what's happening there. There's nothing there.
I mean, with the poll we put out online, we did ask you, have you seen a change in your high street since Labour's tax hikes? 84% said yes, 16% said no. And we've got a comment about barbershops and Uber dwellers as well. But, I mean, down to closures, the Centre for Retail Research reported 10,494 closures in 2024, with tax hikes and rising costs. It says tax rising and potential accelerating these trends. So that's going to go up this year.
It's also people's laziness, because I'm seeing, I went to Boots the other day and I was like, why is there an Uber Eats in here? I was like trying to like play.
And they're ordering from Greggs, which is just opposite them.
Yeah, and someone's ordering. I saw somebody, he was sitting outside a pub and this driver handed him a cookie from Greggs, which was literally just there. And I was watching this going, oh my gosh, this is like a Monty Python sketch.
What I find so frustrating about this government, genuinely, is everything that they say. So they say they want to stop the boats, but they're doing everything that they can to incentivise the boats.
Yeah.
So what, you know, we've seen that. So they'll say something, but then incentivise to do the exact opposite. And exactly the same with their financial policy, their whole economic policy. They're saying, we want growth, we want all of it. You know, I run a business, I'm feeling the squeeze as well. It's not a very big business, but I am also feeling the squeeze. My taxes have gone up, capital gains have gone up.
Well, I mean, other people's taxes as well going up. And it means that people can spend less as well. And it's not just about maybe the businesses being taxed, but it means that people have less money to spend.
Exactly.
So it's just a vicious cycle that the Labour government is fueling.
And it just seems that they'll make policy, and then every other little policy around that main policy is designed to sabotage the main policy. It's absolutely nuts.
And it's everything, even from like the double yellow lines, which are in the high streets where nobody can park anywhere.
yeah.
I mean, it's every little thing. They're coming at you every direction to make sure that this country goes down the drain.
100%.
Unfortunately, that is all we have time for today, though.
that
So I do
happy
apologise. Thank
Let's
you
do
both
another
for-
hour.
If we could, we would. Thank you guys for coming on. It's been great
Pleasure.
having the Tuesday team back. And thank you again for watching at home. It's great to see so many of you return after such a long period. So we'll be back tomorrow night with Nicholas Lissack and Gary Mond. I'll see you then.